This week, the President finally signed the Conflict of Interest Act 2025 into law. A long-awaited anti-corruption measure, essential, overdue, and only enacted because Kenya needed support from the World Bank. A $750 million loan hinged on it. If a law needs a loan to matter, did it ever really matter to us? This legislation was tabled in 2023, debated through 2024, but only began closing loopholes when external pressure surfaced. After Parliament's version was passed, the President returned it with stronger demands. Define family, expand gift disclosures to relatives, empower the EACC, and close proxy gifting loopholes. Now, until public and institutional pressure and a bank account became involved, the bill floundered. So what does that say about us? That even the most basic expectations, like public officers not awarding contracts to themselves, only became a priority when there was money on the table? Public interest shouldn't need a price tag. Integrity shouldn't be outsourced. And accountability shouldn't need a loan officer. You see, the original version of the bill was dangerously diluted. Parliament almost made it legal to give gifts through relatives, capped investigations at 90 days, and cut the EACC out of the process altogether. And it was only after external pressure leading to presidential intervention did it begin to look like a serious effort. And that raises a deeper, more uncomfortable question. How many other reforms are sitting idle simply because they don't come with a check attached? See, this isn't just a procedural flaw. It's a crisis of values. You see, Kenya has witnessed what happens when citizens feel unheard. I mean, just look at the deadly 2024 finance bill protests. People weren't just angry about numbers. They were angry about what those numbers symbolized. Decisions made without them. Laws passed despite them. Power exercised above them. And that is what makes this new law feel less like a national victory and more like a compliance clause. Okay, yes, it's a step forward, certainly. And yes, the loopholes are being closed. But let's not pretend that this was born out of conviction. It was born of condition. And that matters. Because if we only act when someone else is watching, is that still leadership or just performance? Because trust, like currency, only works when it's believed in by the people, not just the lenders. We deserve laws that protect us, not because they are profitable, but because they are principled. We deserve integrity as a foundation, not as a favor. And we deserve leadership that acts from within, and not one that waits to be prompted from without. That's my take tonight.
Accountability, a word politicians love to say, but rarely practice. In 2010, Kenyans thought they had fixed that. Article 104 of the Constitution promised us the power to recall members of Parliament who failed to perform. A democratic tool meant to remind MPs that they work for us, not the other way around. But 15 years later, that power exists only in theory. Why? Because MPs never passed a law to make recall possible. And the few rules that existed under the Elections Act were so restrictive that the High Court threw them out. Think about it. You couldn't recall an MP in their first or last 24 months in office. You couldn't try more than once in 5 years, no matter how bad things got. Political rivals couldn't support the process, as if only friends of an MP should hold them accountable. And worst of all, 30% of registered voters had to sign a petition, a near impossible burden dumped entirely on the citizen seeking a recall. The High Court rightly struck them down. But now, with no procedural law in place, your right to recall an MP is dead in the water. Parliament holds the keys, and MPs aren't about to open a door that could lead to their own exit. And here's the irony. There's a legal framework to remove a president, deputy president, governor, even an MCA. Then why would there be laws to remove every other elected leader, yet no legal framework exists to remove a member of the National Assembly? Somehow MPs have carved out a safe zone for themselves, immune from the same standards of accountability everyone else in government faces. So what happens? MPs know they can skip sessions, betray promises, insult voters and get away with it. There are no real consequences between elections. And as we've seen time and time again, they'll treat you however they want for 4 years, and then come election season, return with smiles, slogans and handouts. And too often, we forgive, forget, and reward them with another term, another free pass. Yet this doesn't have to be the case. Other democracies have simple, effective recall laws. The UK's Recall of MPs Act 2015, for example, allows a by-election if voters reach a certain threshold after misconduct or absenteeism. Even countries without recall provisions like India still remove MPs for missing too many sittings or facing convictions. In Kenya, we already have rules for losing a seat, but apparently they only apply when Parliament feels like enforcing them. The truth is, voters should have the first and final say on whether a failing member of Parliament deserves to finish a full term. If the law is misused, the courts can step in. But without a law at all, we remain powerless, watching leaders enjoy 5 years of immunity regardless of how badly they perform. So yes, recall your MP only if they ever allow it. Until we stop falling for the same tired tricks and demand real accountability, our so-called right to recall will remain yet another constitutional promise locked away in Parliament's back pocket.
And let me say this from the onset. You cannot legislate morality, and you certainly cannot regulate behavior into submission. The latest draft of proposals by NACADA, framed as an attempt to tackle what they call the alcohol and drug menace in Kenya, are not just misguided, they're draconian, anti-business, and dangerously out of touch with modern governance. Let's start with the basics. In Kenya, when you turn 18, you are legally an adult. You get a national ID, you can vote, marry, run a business, and even join the military. The state recognizes you as a full responsible citizen. You are responsible for your own actions and decisions. But somehow, NACADA believes at 18, well, you are incapable of deciding whether to drink, what to consume, or how to live your life. That is a contradiction, it is insulting, and it's unconstitutional. Now let's come to the proposals that they have, which were initially floated as a ban before public pressure forced a cosmetic backtrack. But we heard you, NACADA, loud and clear, and we know exactly what your real intentions are. If allowed to pass, these proposals won't just inconvenience bar owners or creatives. They will cripple Kenya's alcohol industry and strangle the country's vibrant creative economy. This is the same industry that provides livelihood to thousands and contributes billions in taxes annually. Let me remind NACADA, the same government you work for relies on sin taxes, alcohol, tobacco, gaming, to plug its budget holes. According to the World Bank, Kenya can rake in a cool 90 billion shillings every year from properly implemented excise taxes on these sectors. Instead of rushing to punish, ban and restrict, NACADA should go back to the basics, something it has either forgotten or completely abandoned. If the goal is to reduce harmful alcohol and drug use, then social and behavior change communication, SBCC, is the proven pathway forward. SBCC isn't guesswork. It's science. It's interactive, research-driven, and community-led. It uses advocacy, social mobilization, and strategic messaging to shift both mindset and behavior. This is what works, not threats, not panic, not paternalism, and NACADA knows this. It is in your own mandate. So why not follow it? Because make no mistake, the path you've chosen will lead to loss of jobs, closure of businesses, a battered entertainment industry, and an inevitable return to illicit brews and hard drugs as youth, desperate, look for an escape for economic despair. You don't fight drug abuse by waging a war on livelihoods. You fight it by building awareness, trust, and responsibility. Together with the people you now treat like enemies, let's be clear, these proposals must remain just that, proposals. NACADA's job is to control, not to crush, not to kill industries, not to censor culture, not to choke opportunity. Kenya needs a balance, not a blind regulations. We need smart interventions, not sweeping bans, and above all, we need NACADA to think, not just to react.
Ruto simpigi kura. Amenajisi nchi. Bila kutumia hata kondom.
This is Selector Dede.
Wanadhani ya si bongo lala, ikikupita we bongo lala. Na walosema jana iwezi fika leo, tuko ground tunasoza. Hatujikuku mewaka sana, na mabisto na chafua raga. Na walosema jana iwezi fika leo, tuko ground tunasoza. Hakuna mboka, peleke shuleni watasoma. Madaktari wamegoma, hapa sani Yesu atatuponya. Wambie punde imechoka sana, farasi bado ijapatikana. Ni mandai wanagonya na mali wanaponda, unakonda wananona. Mandamano, 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 amise mandamano, mandamano, mandamano,
Jam down, shuffle.